Chronicles, Chapter 47, Mothers. Sister Rosa left Eric's home and she braced through the blizzard she barely felt, and when she opened the door to Alan's home, her body temperature had dropped considerably. Homer screeched, "It's the Ice Queen! Run!" "Settle down, Dad," said Alan, capturing his manic pixie of a father. "I came to speak with Sunshine," said Rosa coldly. Sunshine trembled under the gaze of Rosa, and Sunshine was always on edge whenever Rosa addressed her. Something about her emotionless voice reminded Sunshine of her mother's sea dream. Sunshine handed a sea breeze to Alan and she went to her bedroom to speak with Rosa. "I want you to stop interfering in Lilian's life," said Rosa. "You don't know what his life has been like, and without having the full information, you are making baseless assumptions about the reason why he doesn't want to speak with his mother." "I only know what I've been told," said Sunshine evasively, and I'm sorry. Did something happen?" Lamis came to his sons to ruin the evening, and Lilian was so frightened that he started to nurse Liam in public. And there are relationships that are broken beyond repair, and regardless how much you try to bring the pieces together, the plate breaks and crumbles to dust, said Rosa solemnly. "He's doing that weird thing again? That is not normal," retorted Sunshine. "Who are you to judge what is normal, Sunshine? You don't belong to this time and place. People can change a lot over the course of 5,000 years. And instead of worrying about Lilian, why don't you go take care of your daughter instead," said Rosa. "She still calls Helmer mother, and the time you spend lecturing Lamis is time you could have spent teaching your daughter something constructive. Or do you want to end up like Lamis? Get your priorities straight, Sunshine." After saying this, Rosa departed, and Sunshine trembled from head to toe, and the ice dragon queen's words had struck a nerve. And she looked to her schedule and she canceled all of her future meetings with Lamis, as well as her other little pet projects. And if there was no love, there was no point in trying to fix a relationship that was broken beyond repair. And the only pet project she kept open was the one belonging to Cimarron, and he was improving a lot, and she was almost certain that his agoraphobia was practically cured. And once she got him a day job, he was good to go. Yes, Cimarron did have hope, unlike Lamis and the Lilian situation. Plus Sunshine is better at curing physical, certain ailments and not relationship problems. Just as she was leaving the bedroom, Sunshine got a call, and one of Tyrone's necromancy bells started ringing, and Sunshine picked it up, and this one communicated Sunshine with Barrow's household. And poor Barrow said to Sunshine, "My son wants to spend time with his grandchildren. Can you take us to Jabberwocky?" Sunshine teleported to Mordred, and in a small isolated cottage in the mountains lived Barrow with her only surviving son, Cimarron. Asurga had just flown back to be with her other brood of children, and a bored Cimarron had suddenly gotten the urge to see the twins. And Ray looked miserable after his mother's messy divorce, and he too had finally decided to end his terrible marriage thanks to Sunshine's DNA test. And Olivia had a knocking on the door, and she was greeted by Beryl and her son Cimarron. And Olivia only knew Cimarron based on descriptions. Cimarron had ebony skin, a handsome face with a long, elegant nose and beautiful feminine lips, one brown eye and one milky blind eye, and thick eyebrows and short curly hair. And his formal stout body had become delicate after what he called his accident. During his depression bouts, he would stop eating or drinking, and since he wasn't a shell of Mordred, he could not hibernate away his woes. And before his captivity, he would grow obsidian-colored armor scales, and his brown eyes would glow the color of amber. And since he was a different flavor of dragon and the son of Palamedes, the Council of Mages decided to study him. And after a month, they got bored of experimenting on him, and Cimarron was then sold to Woden as a sister. And during his time in the tower, Cimarron was experimented on, and he was even vivisected. And they tested everything from his regenerative abilities to his resistance to poison and magic to his reproductive system. And from the experiments, he ended up losing his sword hand. and he had gotten amputated just below the elbow, and when it did not grow back, the experiments ended. And in the castle, he was blinded in one eye, and his kidneys were removed for trying to escape. And Cimarron's depression was currently focused on his guilt, and the nameless elf guard who had tried to help him escape had been executed because of him. Cimarron stood in front of the door with his mother holding on to his hand, and Beryl was upon his skin as well, with a clean-shaven head, with a round face, amber eyes, and a small, stout body. And she was often described as having the physique of a tree trunk. And when her son was captured, the knights told Beryl that her son was dead, and without a body, Beryl was unconvinced. And together with a stalker, the two women searched for Cimarron, and they even put out a bounty of 1,000,000 gold coins for his safe return. And Sister Rosa too searched for him, and in the end, Beryl had to reach out to an old friend in Notan who had Cimarron home in less than a week. Beryl said to Olivia, "I am told Geoffrey is here. The father of his wife wants to spend New Year with his grandchildren." "Oh, you must be Beryl," said "Welcome," said Olivia, ushering her guest within. "I brought cake," said Beryl, handing Olivia a box she was carrying. "Cake, sweet. I love cake," said Olivia, bringing it to the kitchen. Geoffrey saw Cimarron, and he gave him a warm smile when he saw that Astorga was not with her father. He can't stand the wife, but he likes the father of he can't stand the ex-wife, but he likes the father of his ex-wife, Divorce is amazing. The twins who adore Cimarron hugged and kissed him on the cheek, and the twins have dragged their grandfather to the couch to have him enjoy the boring, peaceful festivities. And there was classical piano being played on the record, and Silver was playing with her dolls without the fear of having anyone try to join in her game. And Tyrone was playing mahjong with Tilda, Oliver, and Lily. And James was drawing with coloring pencils, and Horatio was making alterations to one of Lily's dresses, and from time to time one would engage in small talk while they performed their peaceful activity. And Cimarron started to focus his one good eye on Horatio, and Beryl went to the kitchen and she served a piece of dulce de leche cake with almonds. Shockingly, he said after taking a bite, "Aha! I knew your scent was familiar." "Yes, I smell it those that surround me. I have been spending a lot of time with your grandchildren and your son-in-law," said Horatio, using one of his prepared answers. Horatio had recently been formally introduced to Cimarron, and since then he had been preparing his lies. Cimarron, smiling, said to his mother, "Mother, this is my jailer. I am certain of it." Like the guy that kept him in prison and all that, looked after him in prison and all of that. "You are mistaken. We elves look alike," said Horatio, remembering his lines. "No, I am certain," said Cimarron, drawing closer to Horatio, and he added, "Yes, my jailer has freckles just like the ones you have over your nose." "A lot of elves have freckles," said Horatio dryly. "We spend a lot of time outdoors, hunting, exercising, or playing baseball." "If he says he wasn't your jailer, then he wasn't," barked Tyrone. Horatio sighed, and then he whispered, "I was." "Yes, you used to whisper like that sometimes," said Cimarron happily. He made my stay in the castle tolerable. The morning guard was always beastly to me, but this fellow was kind and gentle to me, and he would remove my chains, and he treated my wounds, and he fed me real food. He explained to me the hopelessness of my situation. "I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you," said Horatio sadly. "You got hurt because of my carelessness." No, said Cimarron, laughing. "I should have listened to you instead of insisting on a half-baked escape plan. Phew! I am so happy to know that you're alive. They didn't hurt you, did they? You look alright." Horatio stood up and he went to cry in his room for a bit, and Tyrone, guessing that what his partner was up to, went to console him. And with Horatio and Tyrone gone, it fell on Olivia to play hostess. "I'm sorry, I thought he was dead, you see," said Cimarron. "When his replacement came, he told me that my jailer had been executed for high treason." "No, he wasn't executed. They gave him a public lashing and 3 days in the dark room. Just a slap on the wrist, really, all things considered. And his head would have rolled if he wasn't married to a princess of Jabberwocky," said Olivia, sighing. But enough about the past. Want me to make you some tea for the cake you brought? Mom, what is the dark room? Asked Oliver. It's just like the name says. A pitch black room with no light or sound. A good place to take a nap. Said Olivia, giving a nervous laughter, and she was trying to paint in the most benign colors the sensory deprivation room that Waternuts used to punish traitors. Jeffrey started to talk about the work he was doing in Jabberwocky, and with Caleb he had managed to shut down a slave trafficking ring operating within the rotten city. And with the abolition, slaves had become a high-priced commodity to be kept in the bedrooms or dungeons. And Ray, taking over the conversation, spoke of more pleasant topics like makeup work and the beauty queen he was developing with Sister Rosa. You should get a day job, Grandpa, said Jefferson. I only have one ham, and it is the last one, said Cimarron. I am not in my best physical condition, and precision work is difficult for me. You can stock shelves, suggested Ray. You can water the plants, suggested Jefferson. Mom? Asked Cimarron. Nobody's pressuring you to do anything you don't want to, son. I am fine taking care of you for the rest of my life, said Beryl, smiling benevolently. And she added, after I am gone, Astorgas will take care of you. Don't talk like that, Mom, said Cimarron, hugging his mother. Yeah, don't talk like that, Mom, said Jeffrey, laughing. Heaven forbid if Astorga takes care of Cimarron full time. She tries too hard with everything and everyone, said Cimarron, smiling benevolently, and he added, there is such a thing as good enough. Tyrone returned with a horati, and he was carrying a large box with numbers of runes. And he opened the box, and inside was a silver armor glove with a cushioned interior. And Tyrone explained, my husband and Sunshine made this for you. It is a prosthetic. I already have one, and it is completely useless, said Horati bitterly. This one is magic, said Tyrone. Oh, why didn't you say so before? Let's try it on, said Cimarron, chuckling. Cimarron put it on, and he suddenly felt more comfortable, and he looked at his palm, and he saw an eye opening. Cimarron turned pale at this automated motion, and Tyrone, laughing, said, it was made using an eye of bananas, and once you get some practice, the glove will feel like your original hand. Thank you, said Cimarron shyly. And he started to cry a bit, and Tyrone handed Cimarron a handkerchief, which he mindlessly gripped with his new prosthetic hand. And Beryl too became emotional when she saw how well the new magical prosthetic worked. And she took the box and the instruction manual, and which she started to read religiously. And the glove was recharged by moonlight, not sunlight, it's moonlight. The charging station was inside the box that needed to be exposed to moonlight, and the eye served as a battery meter. When it fully closed, it was completely discharged. Cimarron spent a good portion of the night enjoying the good company, and eventually he yawned, and Tyrone took him to the guest room. Tyrone saw his mother floating by, and Cimarron too saw the little ghost girl passing by, though he assumed that she was probably an elemental. Since Cimarron did not make a comment on the apparition, Tyrone breathed a sigh of relief. Tyrone bathed Cimarron, and he put him to bed, and not before wrapping him up like a little burrito. And Beryl had described to Tyrone her son's sleeping ritual. Tyrone kissed Cimarron on the forehead before departing, and for the first time in decades, Cimarron slept in a room that was not his own. Come morning, it fell on Astorgas to look after her father on a full-time basis, and the entire family attended Beryl's funeral, including a good number of the Knights of Mordred belonging to Cimarron's former unit. And Cimarron was the youngest of Beryl's brood, having recently turned 147 years old, and she had him at the age of 671, and she had lost all of her other boys because of the Mad Dragon King's expansionism wars. And Cimarron was a surprise, and without Beryl, Cimarron's house no longer felt like his own, and the funeral was done in water, and it was officiated by Ambrose. Beryl lived most of her early life as a palace slave, and after working for 30 years, she was freed, and she married the knight Palamedes, and she bore him 7 sons that became knights, and while patrolling a newly annexed territory, Palamedes and his sons got ambushed, and they perished. and in a drunken fling she ended up murdering her youngest son Cimarron. Cimarron became an heir. He produced a daughter who in turn had her own children, and Beryl found much comfort in looking after her descendants, and when she wasn't a mother, Beryl fostered kittens and she fed homeless people in the shelter. And this New Year, Beryl died peacefully, surrounded by her loved ones. During the wake, there was much debate about who was going to take care of Cimarron, and Astorga still had her young brood to take care of, and before anyone noticed, Cimarron had left the church and he was making his way towards the cliffs. And Cimarron opened a locket with a picture of Astorga's, and just when he had finally decided to leave, he heard the sound of the footsteps on the snow, and before he knew it, somebody had pushed him off the cliff. And when he came to, the prosthetic hand had slipped down and elongated, thus stopping his fall by clawing into the wall of the cliffside. "Help! Help!" started yelling Cimarron. Inanis heard the distress call, and one of her eyes opened, and she said to the others, "Cimarron jumped off a cliff." Gregory flew out of the church, followed by Sunshine, and between the two they were able to pull Cimarron out of that sticky situation, with only a dislocated shoulder to worry about. And Cimarron did not speak a word during the time he spent getting his shoulder popped back into place, and Astorga kept pacing about outside of the room, filled with worry. And Inanis, after looking at the recording of the eye, said to Astorga, "Relax, he did not jump. Some asshole pushed him off a cliff." Who? Asked Astorga, even less relaxed, because it wasn't that the father jumped off a cliff, it's another thing that somebody pushed him off a cliff, because Who knows, said Inanis. The prosthetic has only an eye, and you're asking too much of it. I mean, it just saved your father's life. So let's just count our blessings, shall we? Astorga went to her father's bedroom, and Sunshine came to Astorga and she handed her some medicine. This is for the swelling on his shoulder, and this is a refill of his regular medication, and you can put him wherever it is most convenient. Sunshine left the hospital after doing this in order to spend time with her daughter Seabreeze. And Sunshine was currently in overcompensation mode, and little Seabreeze was starting to get tired of her mother's boring, stuffy ways. "Come on, father, let me take you home," said Astorga, taking his left hand. Cimarron shook his head to illustrate his desire to stay put. Astorga insisted, "Let's go, Dad, time to go home." Astorga yanked her father by the arm to force him to stand, and at this point he was no longer resisting. And an extremely stressed Astorga was mourning and struggling with her new situation as a prime caretaker over feeble father. As she pulled him out of the hospital, she started to hyperventilate, and her grip on her father's wrist became stronger, and she grew faint. "Astorga," said Cimarron, embracing his daughter, "you don't have to take care of me. You can barely take care of yourself." "But Dad," said Astorga, crying. "I'm going to make the effort, Astorga. You don't have to worry about me anymore," said Cimarron, becoming emotional as well. Sylvia, who just happened to arrive at the hospital, sighed, and when she saw the two embrace her so, and she took a deep breath, and a frozen wind escaped her lips. Sylvia, taking charge of the situation, sent all of the street urchins of Astorga to one of Sofina's orphanages to be babysat. And Astorga was officially on vacation and not allowed to look after any infants or make any decisions with regards to the physical well-being of another. And it did not help much the fact that she had sprained her father's only remaining good hand, because when she gripped it too hard. There was much debate as to what to do with Astorga and Cimarron. Eric volunteered to take the pair, and the idea was agreed upon until Gregory spoke. "I don't want her in my house," barked Gregory. "Why?" asked Eric. "She killed my mommy, and whatever valid reason she thinks she may have had, it doesn't change the fact that I am an orphan because of her. My father did not last long after my mommy's death, and she ruined my family. She ruined all of our lives with her impulsiveness," said Gregory, pouting. "I am sorry," said Cimarron, apologizing for his daughter. "It is my fault she did this to you. Satyr refused to help me and my daughter. She wasn't able to forgive your mother. And when I'm better, we will self-exile, and we will no longer burden you with our presence." "Satyr killed Satyr," said Sunshine. "And she could have helped Cimarron, but she chose not to, and she considered him imperfect, and the Dragon of Jordan wastes resources on imperfect creatures. Look into lore and judge for yourself, Gregory. It was an accident. Astorga was just trying to rescue her daughter. You would have done the same thing if somebody was hurting Lord Julian right in front of your very eyes. I want my daddy. Why won't somebody please take me to my daddy? Said Gregory, having a fit. Hunter and Eddie took Gregory to his father's graveyard, and this was the first major fit Gregory had had in years, and he started punching and screaming and kicking at the dirt on top of his father's grave. And before he smashed his head against the gravestone, Eric restrained Gregory, and at the end of his fit, Gregory dourly saw the memory that was stored within lore. Satyr had already amputated one of the wings when Astorgas broke into the operating room, and the knights of Mordred loyal to Satyr tried to kill Astorgas, and Astorgas, who had never fought in her life, was taken over by her primal maternal instinct, and she shed her skin, and her race swelled until she resembled an obsidian-colored dragon with horns and the pronounced now golden eyes, and the cat-like gaunt. And she threw herself on top of Sylvia, and she shot flames to anything and anyone that approached, and her fire struck a tank, and the entire operating room exploded, and a very shocked Astorgas came to her senses with her daughter safely hiding beneath her, and as for Satyr, her body parts were all over the place. Gregory crying after he saw the memory said to Eric, I need to see Astorgas. Eric brought Gregory and Hunter to Astorgas, and with Gregory's forgiveness, Astorgas' heart was finally at peace. And a month passed after this family crisis, with each making peace with problems that did not have a solution. A ver, si nos damos, papá,